Okay, guess we're gonna get started. Well, hello! What a turnout, huh? What's up, man? Welcome to the Coventry P.E.A.C.E. Campus Community Discussion. I'm Ian Hintz. I am on the board of Ensemble Theater. I've also been working with the Coventry P.E.A.C.E. Campus stakeholders over the last several months, and I'm going to kind of be your facilitator for the night, right? So we're really excited you came. We invited you here because we want to get your feedback and your input, right? We're really excited to hear about the questions that you might have for us and to open that dialogue and that communication, right? That's what community is all about. So as we go through this evening, I want you guys to really think about the questions. If you would rather write the questions down, we can make that happen. But there'll be an open question and answer session after we do this short presentation. So, what is the Coventry P.E.A.C.E. campus and how did we get here? Well, that's a great question. So, on or about May 9th, as they say in the crime movies, there was a meeting that occurred here, and all of the collaborative, the tenants in this building, were informed that potentially we were going to a month-to-month lease, and that we would probably have to leave this building, which meant a lot of things for us. Ensemble Theater was one of the first tenants in here. We were here when this building was pretty much empty. We were quickly joined by Family Connections and Lake Erie Inc., and after that, everything kind of snowballed. And what I see here in this building is truly a beautiful act of collaboration and community coming together to create this arts, culture, and education environment that you see here. So that's basically where we started, and we said, well, what are we going to do, right? Okay, this is bad news, right? One of the great testaments of this group that you're going to hear from tonight and the stakeholders in the collaborative, you're going to hear people that are creative, the problem solvers, and they have the ability to take something bad and turn it into an opportunity for positive change. And that's a rare thing, and that's what Cleveland Heights is all about, right? That's the manifestation of what Cleveland Heights is to me. So I can't wait to get started here. The collaborative is here, as you can see, Cleveland Heights residents, right at the top, right? We do this because we serve the Cleveland Heights residents. All the nonprofits in this building serve Cleveland Heights residents. Heights Library, the CID, the Country Village CID, also a stakeholder here. So Big Fun, Tommy's, they've been extremely supportive. Coventry P.E.A.C.E. Incorporated, really supportive. The playground, it's been amazing. Ensemble Theater, ARTFUL, Future Heights, Lake Erie Inc., Family Connections, Reaching Heights. It's a list of who's who that makes a difference in this community. And again, we're all really happy that you came out tonight. It's a great turnout. So this is kind of what the function of the evening is going to look like. We're going to have Coventry P.E.A.C.E. Campus, right? I'm going to introduce Ray Gonzalez here in a minute, and he's going to talk to you a little bit about the park. We're going to have all of these wonderful executive directors from these nonprofits that are in this building talk about their organizations and why they do what they do, why it matters to this community. And as you can tell, they're all also run by women. So I think that's a pretty unique thing, right? That's pretty awesome. Yeah, definitely. And I will say, I know it's a little off script, but they've all made me a much better communicator. Just being around them. I'm serious. They've really taught me a lot. And then we're going to turn it over to Paul Volpe here. Some of you might know Paul. And he's going to talk about what a 21st century residential village can look like on this site. Right? Now, one final thing I just want to emphasize, nothing here is set in stone. Okay? That's why we're here. We're here to get your input, your feedback, your questions. And we're all going to listen to each other and hopefully come up with something that's going to really affect this community in a positive way. Again, that positive change that we're looking for. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce Ray Gonzalez from Coventry.
No.
Really? Okay, it's really great to see you all here. A number of you are fellow sponsors of Coventry P.E.A.C.E. come out and help us to repair playground stuff. And I'm the vice president. Eric Kaufman is the president. Eric, just remind me, make sure I tell everybody that this Saturday, October 21st, during our semi-annual cleanup of the park and repair the park. So 9 to 12, 9 to 2, come out, help us clean up, repair some things, do some great food here, and have a really fun time. So the playground was started 24 years ago. Actually, it started about 26, 27 years ago when a bunch of folks got together to plan this. It's a 2-year-long planning process, really the community organized it. I was on involved with that. And they come out and did work on those 2 very cold and rainy weekends in October to help build the park and very much as a little worker bee. Since then, especially since both my boys went to Coventry Elementary here, I really became involved with the playground restoration and maintaining of that, and continues to grow. It really serves a general community. The park, in some ways, is what makes Cleveland Heights Cleveland Heights. It's a very unique place. People come from all over the county, not just locally here in Cleveland Heights, to this place. It's a designation playground. We're working to try and maintain and keep doing that. And it really is the most publicly used space, the most culturally diverse space in Cleveland Heights. On any given weekend, almost any day, you'll get all sorts of folks here, every social, economic, racial, cultural background here, even in wintertime. It's a great sledding hill, as you may know. It's a really fun thing. We want to preserve this. We've been working for the last 15 years and helping to look at how we can redesign the playground and to maintain it, and to grow it, and do more, because the life expectancy of it is about 25 years. So with structure, it's really great. We've been able to do a lot of TLC in the living care to be able to maintain that. So we need to look forward to looking on that. I think this is a great way to help us to move forward. So again, it's a really vital part. It's a green space. We can't lose green space. Again, this is really what makes Cleveland Heights Cleveland Heights. I'd like to introduce Brady, Dindia, who will talk to us some more about this whole development process. Redevelopment process. We're really redeveloping the space.
I'm actually, I don't go play yet because we are going to have the executive directors tell you a little bit about each of the organizations that they love and run. So we're going to start with Celeste from Ensemble. Come on up, Celeste.
Good evening, everyone. I was actually just trying to share your wonderful live stream Facebook feed to the Ensemble Facebook page, but I'll do that when I'm done. So Ensemble Theater was actually founded in 1979 by my mother, Lucia Colombi. Her, my aunt, and my uncle were pretty well known in the Cleveland community as kind of a crazy Italian group of artists. So I came from a very kind of like rich tradition of the arts. My grandmother was an opera singer, taught music. My grandfather was a doctor. I tried to be a veterinarian, obviously didn't work. We were founded actually, I was born in October of 1978. I just put a really well then. And then the theater was created in the middle of the year in 1979. So I've literally grown up with this theater. It was part of my growing up as a kid. It's been instrumental in the things that I've learned in my life. I got to hang around with amazing people like Ruben and Dorothy Silver when I was growing up. We would be reading plays. Actors were like my babysitters, which was the coolest thing ever. And so it became like a second home to me. Like I felt as safe in a theater, in any theater space, as I did in my own house. So we actually were in Cleveland Heights for about 18 years in what was the Civic Building on Mayfield Road. And then for a little while we went down to the Cleveland Playhouse when they were still on 89th and Euclid. When they moved downtown, we were kind of like, oh my goodness, where are we going to end up going? And how it actually happened, we were talking with the district, the music school settlement had some kind of plan of coming into the building. And actually we were going to come in with them. The music school settlement never panned out. And Ensemble Theater was still kind of given that olive branch week, is that what the word is I'm looking for? To come into the building. And so we came in and we used the gym, like very bare bones. We had like folding chairs and a platform and maybe some trusses with lights. And we did like a couple of shows that first like 6 months that we were in the space. We've now been here for 7 seasons. We're about to open our 38th season for the theater, our 7th season in space. Serendipitously titled We the People, because a lot of the shows we think are about people like me, people like you, that every day are kind of struggling or doing wonderful things in their communities. There are a lot of plays that are really strong about community and people. We've been, I'm lucky to actually know 2 of my favorite playwrights right now. Reggie Joseph was a local. We used to pick up trash together at King Park. So there really is a culture of arts in Cleveland Heights. It's my backyard. I used to do things that I won't mention, but yes. We also, for a long time, had a lot of educational and outreach touring programs. When my mom was the artistic director, there were a couple of different programs. Panorama of African American Theater, which was actually picked up by the WCLB. What is the TV program? Idea Stream. For a while, it was actually syndicated nationally for a while. So she did a couple of different panoramas that toured. And most recently, one of our outreach programs, which I developed with a local Cleveland Heights resident, who happens to be in the audience over there, hi Jen. We got together and we're doing what's called the Heights Performing Arts Camp, which you'll see our lovely first inaugural year of kids this year, who Tommy's was wonderfully able to donate milkshakes for us. It was a great bargaining chip, it worked really well. And so it was a group of kids that came from each one of these CHUH elementary schools. So that was amazing to me, and the fact that we were able to do that. We had our final performance at King Park, so there was like a really synergy about different pieces of the community coming together in different locations. It all happened here at Coventry, out in this space, in our theater. We have a big space and a little space. Anytime you want to come and see it, just let us know. We were one of 16 organizations that were picked nationally by the Robert Rauschenberg Foundation. So we got an anonymous email. I at first actually thought it was spam. But it was a group of artists here in Cleveland and then 4 other cities nationally, where they kind of picked you out as being very unique and very bold and very audacious and very kind of, they called us culture makers, which I thought was really amazing. And so for the last 3 years, they've actually sent us down to Captiva, which was great, to do all these kinds of workshops and kind of peer consultancies and working together with these other nonprofits that got these grants. And the idea being to really kind of collaborate and cooperate, which then kind of speaks to the nature of, I feel like, what is already happening and has been happening in the building. The first time I met Amy, we talked about how we could collaborate and have since, in probably the last 5 or 6 years, done numerous programs together, poetry slams, their kids come in and read stuff. And then ARTFUL, I think the minute after Shannon came in the building, we're like, how can we work together? So this building has been a really special place for me. I also work down at the Cleveland Museum of Art. And I kind of feel like something unique like that could happen in this corner as well. So without further ado, I think I will pass it on to Joanne Petterman, who is the Executive Artistic Director of Family Connections.
The Artistic Director sounds.
I know.
Why? No, I'll stay with it. I'm Joanne Petterman, Executive Director of Family Connections. By the mic. No. Speak right into it. How's that? I eat the mic. It is a real honor to be here, a part of this community where we began 35 years ago. If you have ever raised a child, you know that they don't come with instructions. You know that you can be very isolated. You don't have someone around to share the joys and the challenges with. And we had 35 years ago 2 Cleveland Heights University Heights teachers, Barbara Sewells and Carolyn Grossman, who realized that and co-founded Heights Parent Center, which is now Family Connections of Northeast Ohio. And we are thrilled to still be very much a part of Cleveland Heights' community. I would refer you to the slides to give you an idea of what we do, but the reason we do it and the reason it's so important for us to be in this building is because we are making connections. We are building community when children are born, when children and their parents come together and they meet friends and they develop their support network, or as what we want to say, they build their own village of support. They stay in the community. They become part of the community. They want to stay and they want to give back to the community. And we have countless graduates, I should say, from the program who have become executive directors, maybe not that far, but yeah, executive, all right. Active with their PTA, on council, school board. So Family Connections is where it starts, and being a part of this community is so important for us to start when children are born. One quick quote, and then I'm going to hand it over. Give me the mic now, I'm going to keep it for about a minute. I want to read something that was a part of a publication about a family resource center, which is what Family Connections is about. We're integral to our community. We contribute to the community building process. Our programs promote the well-being of the whole community, not just the program participants. We engage in community building activities that contribute to the social, cultural, and economic life of the community, and we serve as a showcase for community pride and ownership. One of our roles is to build strong relationships with other community resources, and that's why we are in this building. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for being here tonight. I feel like we're welcoming you to our home away from home, because this is where we spend a lot of our time. So I appreciate your being here. My name is Krista Hawthorne, and I'm director of Reaching Heights. And Reaching Heights is in its 27th year, and we are 4 part-time employees and 16 volunteer board members. And we work hard to connect the community to our public schools with programs that enrich students and support teachers. So you might know about us through some of our programs, Many Villages Tutoring, Reaching Heights Role Model Speakers, or our parent mentor, Amy Kurian, who works with families with students with special learning needs, or our community care teams, where we bring resources that support our school district in to have special meetings with principals so that we can really all work together to get to know each other and support our schools. Reaching Heights also is a strong supporter of arts and education. So we have a 1-week intensive summer music camp that has an incredible finale concert. After just 5 days together, you wouldn't believe the amazing music that these kids can put together. We also raise funds for private music lesson scholarships and scholarships for camp. And we coordinate Reaching Musical Heights every 4 years that brings more than 550 of our young musicians to the stage at Severance Hall. So that's coming up spring of 2019. We also focus a lot of our time and energy on communications to raise awareness of our schools, and also so that our community values the deep learning and excellent teaching that's happening every day behind those brick walls. So that's very important. And we really love being here in this building. This has been a very interesting place for us. We were on Lee Road until 2014. And to be with this group of executive directors is really very special. Probably the least interesting thing about us is our gender. No, maybe what we're wearing or how we do our hair is the least interesting thing about us. These are an incredible group of interesting people. We are all connecting organizations. We are all community building organizations. We are all placemakers and artists and educators. So we hope that this connection continues, and I know that Reaching Heights is better because of it.
This is actually harder to do as we go along, because I feel like I knew I had all these great connections, and then I'm sitting in this room and I'm realizing I went to Heights Parent Center and Family Connections when my child was born. And my first grant to run poetry in the schools was a Reaching Heights grant. And the first article that was written about Lake Erie Inc. when we came into being was in the Heights Observer. And, you know, I guess I just want to say that it really truly is that the sense of connection and networks that we've built. So in the summer of 2011, myself, I'm Amy Rosenbluth, I'm executive director at Lake Erie Inc., and Cynthia Larson, both of us are teachers. we had a vision and a dream and a program, and we actually had kids and families who were willing to participate, and we needed a home. And we were invited into this building, and we started programming here in September of 2011. And it was with Ensemble Theater, who showed us stuff like where to take the garbage and how to turn on the lights. And we had a lot of fun setting alarms on and off and all of that. And what happened was the kids came, and the parents came, and more kids came. And teenagers wandered into our teen programs off of the playground. And what we found was that providing a space for kids to have the opportunity to create without assessment, without judgment, was something that was lacking in their world, in our world. And as we speak right now, we have one of our teen writing groups happening just down those steps, and we have probably 9 or 10 teens, and they're probably from 5 or 6 different schools. Some are from Cleveland Heights and some aren't, but they have found a place here where they belong. And they come in every week, and they write together, and they listen to each other, and they learn from each other. And when we talk about building community, you have to start with our children. And modeling, I mean, that's what this building and what we all do, is we model how to be good community citizens and collaborators and creators together. I just wanted to share one little phrase here. I liked what Joanne, or somebody said, it's not what we do, it's why we do it. So Lake Erie Inc., we're a writing space for youth. We're a space for youth to feel heard. We are a space for youth to write. We are a space for youth to listen. I am my heart. I live my dreams. I come from the molten sun. I am my lungs. I breathe my heart, and I see my life. And that's by Caroline. She was age 11. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Shannon Morris. I'm the Executive Director of ARTFUL, which we are up there. We have, sorry, I'm not good at this. So currently we have 16 studio artists that make their art upstairs. We're the newest tenants here and the youngest organization. It's been amazing coming into this building with all these organizations that are so much more experienced, and I don't know what I would have done. I probably would have folded because I would have I give up. I don't know anything. So they're always willing to share their advice and their how to just get it done, and that's been invaluable. But as far as ARTFUL goes, we have big plans, and we hope to stay in this building to make them come true. We have plans for a gallery and woodworking shop and enameling, ceramics. We have big dreams here, and it would be great if we could stay here and make them come true with all of our partners. I guess it's 3 years ago when we started ARTFUL, the whole idea came about because I was isolated and working by myself, and I hated it. And I needed to be around other creative people and creative minds, and that's how my brain works. So that was the reason behind it. And I had no idea that I was going to step into a building that had this much collaboration happening. I mean, it's like a dream come true for me, and I'm really honored as the founder of ARTFUL to bring my organization into this greater collaborative, and I just can't wait to see what happens. So thank you.
And I'm the last of the executive directors. I'm Deanna Bremer Fisher, and I'm the executive director of Future Heights. Future Heights has been around now for 15 years, and we started out by some very dedicated Cleveland Heights residents who care deeply about this community and wanted to see it grow and thrive. And so to this day, we still, on our staff, on our board, on our committees, are filled with Heights residents who care deeply about this community and want to see it grow and thrive. That's what we're all about. We've been an advocacy organization for the community for these 15 years, and now in our 15th year, we are in talks with the City of Cleveland Heights to become its Community Development Corporation. We are a Community Development Corporation. We want to develop a deeper partnership with our city so that we can make some big things happen. You may know some of the things that we do. Hopefully you've seen the Heights Observer around. That's going to be 10 years old in April of next year. That is a publication that everyone can participate in, and it really enables our community to tell its own story. And in addition to that, I've had so many people tell me that they've seen the Heights Observer before they came to the community. They were outside the community, they saw something online, they picked it up, they learned a lot about what kind of a community this is, and they are amazed, because it is amazing all of the different things that we have going on in this community. It's an incredibly vibrant, artistic, creative community that we have here, and it's represented in the Heights Observer. A couple weekends ago, we had our 5th annual Heights Music Hop, which is our community set to music. And this year we were in 3 of our business districts, and we were in 31 venues. And even in that vacant space on Lee and Meadowbrook, where we had an amazing silent disco, and I know some of you are sitting in the audience, I know you were participating in that. It was just amazing to see that vacant space activated. And those are some of the things that Future Heights is working to do through its programs, is to activate our spaces, ensure that we've got vibrant commercial businesses in our districts, and that our neighborhoods are strong. We're doing that in a variety of different ways through our community building programs, and we've got neighborhood mini grants that you may know about. We've done everything from help community gardens to public events, neighborhood events, to public art. You may have seen the mural at Cedar and Taylor on the Cedar Taylor building, and that was a mini grant funded project. And we also put on public forums on different topics that are important for the community to learn about. And one of the things I want to make sure that you're all aware of is that on October 10th, we are having a creative placemaking forum. Very timely event. We planned this months ago, but it's very timely. And just to give a quote there, desirable communities sometimes happen out of sheer luck, but more often they are great by design. And that's what's happening here tonight, is that we are doing creative placemaking. And so now I want to pass the baton to Brady Dindia, who now is going to tell you a little bit more about that as we go.
Good evening. My name is Brady Dindia, and I am the board president of ARTFUL and one of the organizers of Coventry P.E.A.C.E campus. I think the EDs here did a pretty darn good job at explaining the value of these organizations to our community. It's not just Cleveland Heights that benefits from these organizations as well. It's regionally. They can be, you'll find people from all over the place who know about Lake Erie and Reaching Heights and Family Connections and Future Heights. But I do want to talk a little bit about the effects artistic communities have on economic development. I'd like to start with social impact. It's been shown over and over again, I'm sure some of you can attest to this, that communities that are rich and vibrant in the arts see higher child welfare, see lower crime rates, lower poverty rates. These communities also see higher academic performance, significantly higher GPAs and SAT scores. And vibrant communities generate jobs because they attract entrepreneurs and creative workforces. They strengthen the economy not only locally, of course, but regionally, statewide, and nationally. And in fact, the arts sector is a larger portion of our national GDP than agriculture and transportation. So, our organizations obviously have an impact right here locally. We are nonprofits, but we are businesses. Together, these organizations employ 26 full-time employees, 28 part-time employees, and 142 contract employees. And Ian stole my line earlier, but as you noticed, our organizations are also all run by women. We can go next one. Obviously, employees want to live and work in vibrant communities. happier employees make for a happier workplace. And creative placemaking fosters economic development. It attracts people and helps sustain population and encourage population growth as well. But projects like ours can only be accomplished through strategic and creative public and private partnerships. It takes creative people from our organizations, from the community, from residents, from our government to all work together and think creatively to solve our problems and our issues and come up with creative solutions. We do have some of our representatives, some council people are here today. They have said, please have a dialogue with them. They want to hear from you. We encourage you to talk to them. We encourage you to have a dialogue with us and talk with us. So after Paul gives you the vision, the exciting part of this presentation, we will open up the floor for questions and answers, and we really encourage you to ask us whatever questions are on your mind. And when we're done with that, I also want to point out, before I intro you, that the exhibit that was at the library last week is up on the walls around here. So please take some time to walk around. All the executive directors worked collaboratively to put that show together, and it's really quite beautiful and informative. But with no further ado, let's get on to the exciting part that Paul will bring to you right now.
Hello everyone, my name is Paul Volpe. I, like most of you, my claim to fame is I'm a Cleveland Heights resident. I don't have the credentials that these guys do, but something special and personal about this whole thing is that my residency is joined by my wife, my son, his family, my two little grandsons. All of us live in this city, and so it is personal what we talk about tonight and how we feel about this. And what ultimately happens or doesn't happen. And that's what the discussion is. I'm an architect and I'm an urban designer by profession, by avocation, in fact by passion, I'm a community planner. That is what I love more than anything else, is having these kinds of dialogues. And I've done it in cities and towns and neighborhoods all throughout the region. So let's enjoy this and let's exert ourselves and expend a lot of energy and then go out and drink when we're done. Because I don't work on it. This thing is. I'm going to talk about the place. And you know, when all this started, as Ian said, you know, when the letters came out and this group saw themselves being evicted with the potential of this building being torn down, panic ensued. And you would expect that to happen. This is people's livelihoods. Beyond the good work that's done here. And so a meeting was called in Family Connections, and we all sat around the table. I got invited because of Future Heights. Deanna invited me. And we all sat down and we listened. And the initial response was to respond to the crisis, so to speak, because a crisis was ensuing. But instead, this group of really crazy, creative Cleveland Heights people decided instead that they were going to rise to the challenge. And that's what tonight is about. And out of this came a rainbow of ideas that we're going to show you tonight. And these are ideas. This is not a plan. It's not a master plan. This is a set of conceptions, of possibilities that strive to achieve balance on this very important property because it's being pushed and pulled in a lot of different directions. We started with looking at it. The excitement to the challenge came from saying, you know what, this is a special place. There is a lot here that's worth preserving. People gather here, they love it, and it's a part of the Coventry Village Business District, which is extremely unique and special in this region. And it also is a place that's part of the identity of the neighbors. Those of you that live around this place know that your homes, your home values, your children's ability to walk and experience life is amplified by living close to this special place. All of ours is. So we started looking at what we have here. We got a 67,000 square foot old school, we're in it. We got this park, which is kind of loose and undefined, and Ray talks about nothing but possibilities. And Eric, and we got 61 parking spaces, which is not enough. It just ain't enough. And what do we do with this? what do we do with it? So this was a process of rediscovery. I'm going to go through this quickly so we can talk. First thing we did was we looked at the building. I put my architect's hat on, and I looked at this building, and I can tell you, as Donald Trump would say, believe me, but this place is structurally sound, is extraordinarily well built. It is a fascinating piece of architecture. Look around. Look at the volumes, the clear stories. Where do you find a building that has this kind of space? This is a building to replace just what we have here today. Not brand new. What we have here today would cost over $10 million. Okay? And to tear it down would cost upwards of $400,000. So I suggest we as a community think, because it is a public building, we as a community think twice before we look at those kinds of alternatives. Plus it's occupied. Okay? This is 95% occupied by really special people and organizations. But does it work well? What's its long-term future? How do we optimize its potential? Plus, we're all in the panic mode. What has happened since we started all this a few months ago is Urban Oak School and Village Child Care decided we can't wait. We have to sign our kids up, so they are leaving. But the folks that spoke tonight are all committed to staying if we can pull this off, if we can make a deal, so to speak. And that is what our objective is. So what happens is folks now have the ability to expand, to relocate, to bring new tenants into the building, and to create some phenomenal new things that don't exist here today. In other words, the idea is to make the place even better than it is. So we did some planning. I'm not going to talk too much about this. You're in the space, but Ensemble's over there, and we've got this pinwheel-shaped building with this big donut hole in the center. Let's utilize it wisely. Let's put Ensemble all on one floor. Let's give them their own separate entrance, indeed a marquee. Let's create an entrance gallery and knock a big hole in the side of the building and fill it with glass and take this sort of bunker shape and make it extroverted and public. Relocate other spaces interiorly and take this space and make it a first-rate meeting, a convocation-type facility that everybody can use. It can be used literally by every one of these tenants, and it can be used by outside parties within the community. We had a kitchen, we had a lobby, we had a gallery where we can actually sell the art that ARTFUL's artists create. We can have other small shops. We can connect to the activities that are happening on Coventry Road, and we can bring in other arts-related people. ARTFUL can expand up on the second floor, which is the coolest space in the building, with the clear stories and what's going on. And then Family Connections could conceivably move down to the lower level. And incidentally, this is a 4-floor building that's on half levels. Very cool. You only go down half a flight of stairs. So that's not a basement. That space actually opens up to the lower level of the park, and as you will see, we'll have parking. So it's almost ideal for the type of things that families do here when they come. So this is how it's situated on the property, and our notion is that Ensemble in the blue would have its own entrance now where Future Heights and Reaching Heights enter, and that would be dedicated to them. We blow out this wall, add glass, create a big front porch and a plaza for outdoor events and so forth, and that's where all the new arts-related public spaces would be. And then we would maintain our service and loading and our park access on the lower park for Family Connections and the shops and sculpture studios for ARTFUL. So it fits into the site, and conceptually, you can imagine knocking out the brick, just blowing it out with a backhoe and putting floor-to-ceiling glass walls in and creating something that's really public and really exciting. That's what this is about. This is architecture manifesting the function and the vitality that exists here today. Okay, so the last piece of business is this notion of development. We think of what's here already is development. This is development. People have invested in this building. They are vested in this building. The city would like to see more development on this property. We don't disagree with that. We'd like to see investment on this property as well. So as we thought about the challenge of all this, we started thinking about the notion, as it was communicated to us through the RFP that was drafted, that residential development was the most desirable use. This is, in fact, a series of residential neighborhoods that surround a business district. And it's one of the most successful neighborhoods in Cleveland Heights when you look at the demographics. And of course, creating and maintaining vibrant neighborhoods is a key part of the city's master plan. We all support that as residents and as stakeholders. And the city has a very productive history and leadership in the last century of developing village-style communities, small-scale, infill, urban residential developments, whether it was Cedar Mount or Severance Courts or the Bluestone community. And all of these were created on reclaiming vacant property. The vacant Jewish Community Center, for example, created Bluestone, which is being finished while we speak. But we haven't done anything in 15 years. It really is time to begin the reinvestment process, the revitalization of this city. And obviously, that's just not new construction. In fact, it's more renovation and reinvestment in existing properties, but new construction stimulates that. It's proven over and over again across the country in established cities that when you build new, it stimulates investment, raises property values, and causes people to want to think deeper about how they stay in a community. And you have to offer new things. The market today is for the boomers like me, and for the millennials. They're living downtown. We don't want them to skip over the first ring suburbs. We want them to land here. We don't want them in Solon or Westlake or wherever. Perry Township, God forbid. So, you know, it's interesting. This article says the only problem is that no one is building a product that they want. And so we said, what is the product that's right here? What is it? Well, if you take the city's RFP one way, okay, it is fairly loose, and I'm not criticizing it, I'm just simply saying it calls for high-density residential development, which suggests apartments. And everybody's building apartments, as you can see in this picture, around the city of Cleveland, particularly on the near west side, downtown and University Circle. And it suggests that in order to do those, you have to take out land. What this little sketch shows with these boxes is each one is a 26-unit, 3-story building, which really isn't that high in the density. But where do you park the cars? Where are the driveways? Where are the curb cuts? Where are the roads? Can you build this kind of density without taking out park space? We want to take out park space. Isn't that part of our discussion tonight? Okay, this is value discussion. This is about principles, values, and establishing priorities. If you take out this building here and you put apartments back here, how do the neighbors feel about that? Okay, is that of interest to them? If you built high-density housing here, let's say 100 units, you'd have to have 120 parking spaces just for those units. Well, we could build an underground parking garage and put the park on top of it, but I don't know nobody can stroke a check that big. Okay? So the park's probably got to go, because that's an awfully big parking lot. So we began to think that maybe we ought to stick with what we know, which is small-scale, fine-grained, walkable neighborhoods like we already have, by the way, which is our claim to fame in the most positive way, and look at things like people are doing in new ways in other cities, in progressive marketplaces, building things, popular terms are pocket neighborhoods. A whole book was written on this. Or co-housing, which is an idea that's catching on. And its basic principle is that people can live together and a cooperative, collaborative, and concerned community. Well, isn't that who we are as Cleveland Heightsers? At least that's what we've always claimed to be. And maybe that idea can be revitalized to some degree, at least in a small way on this property. And then, of course, there's the idea of building green, looking at things like community solar energy and geothermal resource recovery and sustainability relative to stormwater management. Well, we've got green space, we've got a park, and all of those things are, and we've got a building that's got big roofs on it. Well, all of these things could make sense here, okay? So we started putting the puzzle pieces together, and here's where we ended up. In about 2 minutes, I'm done. We said, well, if we're going to build something, where would you build it? Well, we don't want to tear this down. You guys already know that. And we don't want to take out the park. So where do we have land to build anything? Because we thought building this kind of thing is good. And we'll talk about why maybe later on in the panel discussion when you ask questions. I'm sure you're going to ask us that and form your own opinions. Well, in discovery, and this is where the urban designer in me came out, we all discovered that there was pieces of property here that are underutilized. In fact, over 2 acres of land. This is the fence line here that exists today. On the other side of the fence line is a whole hillside, a sidewalk, and a wide tree lawn that can be reclaimed. There's the north leg of Washington Boulevard. When you have houses on both sides of the street like you do up to this point, having a two-sided median street makes sense. But over here, we've got a whole street that does nothing but park about 12 cars. Maybe that public asset can become a part of this P.E.A.C.E. campus. We have an asphalt lot here. That used to be the playground that the kids used to run around in. Remember we were kids? At least my age, I remember, chasing little girls around and making trouble. When this was a school, that's what you did. But now, that's not used. It's just a big wad of asphalt. Let's reclaim it. And then we have the whole eastern property that I never see anybody in, that has a stunning ravine in it. Well, maybe that could become a part of this campus as well. So here's a quick look at those with photographs. Here, these upper two are the big green areas along Euclid Heights. There's the fence. This is the northernmost section of Washington. That is just parking cars. And this is the big wad of asphalt. Let's look at reclaiming those. And then this, of course, is the underutilized east property, which is slabs of asphalt, a stunning ravine, a 10-foot high fence that doesn't allow you to enjoy that ravine, which could be a thrill for kids to experience as a unique part of nature, and a grassy hillside. Those are things that could be reclaimed and put to use. And then we said, is there any other areas that are considered part of the park? They're inside the fence line that we could consider utilizing as additional repurposed property. There is the mound here, because we're laying it all out here. We want you to know everything so you can think for yourself. My laser pointer isn't working. There's a thing that says mound, which is a big wad of dirt that was actually part of the fill from when the school was torn down. It was just left there and made into a mound. Kind of blocks your views into the space. There is the lower play area, which could be relocated so that we could create a continuous stretch of property. There's what I call the landscape ridge next to the little 6-car parking lot. And then there's a little grass area on the end of the existing parking lot. There's a very specific reason that we want you to think about repurposing each of these 4 areas, and I'll show you now. This is what they look like. Upper left is the mound, upper right is the ridge, and then the lower areas is that play area, which is the weakest part of the playgrounds. It doesn't take out the big slide or any of the really cool stuff. That's easily relocated and frankly revitalized with more contemporary equipment that the kids like my grandchildren would love. We will not ever support taking out the Great Lawn the hillside, the event hillside, or the upper playgrounds, ever. Okay? We just don't. And the truth is, there is a reason to, if you look at development the way we are. Okay, so it takes a village. This is Coventry Village. This is a campus. This is an example of the kind of village-style housing that we're considering. This one is actually in Seattle. This is very urban and much more aggressive than what we're planning. But what you see here is small porches, root gardens, community gardens, solar panels on every single building, very cool architecture, identity-making kind of architecture that is modern but fits in. And this became the basis of our thinking. And again, 21st century living is what we're after, to provide things that are harder to get in this community today, or any first-ring suburb, like first-floor master bedrooms for the old folks like me, or first-floor laundry rooms rather than in a basement, or just a large, great room to live in a smaller space. We're not talking about mansions. We're talking about homes that live small, live big, but are small. 1,600 square feet, 1,700 square feet. I would say that's small. And we're talking about for-sale housing. We're talking about living better. We're talking about enhancing the stock of the housing that's around this, and kind of showing the way of the future for the community with this little investment. So in those areas, you see the dotted lines and a couple of circles, we can get 22 homes, and these would be 1.5 to maximum 2-story homes. They would be low profile. The ones along Euclid Heights actually are at the base of the hill, so they would be partially sunk into the earth. You kind of look over them from the park. And the ones along Washington would create a 2-sided street, which is a very natural thing to do. And again, these would all propose to be for sale. And then I talked about this circle and this area, and these are areas where we have the ability to expand parking. We can turn 6 parking spaces into 22, which would service this end of the building, particularly family connections. Also provide parking for these homes. We're not proposing to put garages in these homes. These people would park in garages or in surface parking in these 2 parking lots. And this piece is critical for our library. This is an enduring place, everybody knows. And it needs parking badly. So we have the ability to wrap the parking lot around, take out a little bit of lawn, create a driveway, and get about 30 parking spaces here for the library, which of course they need and we want. This gives us the ability now to more than double the parking spaces on the site, to make it work functionally, and you will notice that we still got the lawn, we still got the playgrounds, we still got the hillside, but even better than that, what we have is a campus. We have what we're striving for, which is balance, which is a balance of some beautiful expressive homes, an art center with all of these people here and more, and a park that is bigger and better than it is today. The lower playground would get relocated here, expanding this right outside Family Connections' door. We could construct an amphitheater. We could put a walking trail around the whole thing. So this isn't just a kid's place. This is a place where adults can exercise. And we can start thinking about the kinds of things that big cities are doing to retain their population. They got the same issues that we do. They're building things like this because adults have to choose to stay here. Kids don't have any money, the adults do. And young families want these kinds of amenities. We can build a plaza for markets and art fairs and gatherings and parties and weddings inside this space. whatever you want, right out of the front of the big glass wall. Now we take the back 40, as I like to call it, and we open it up with the walking trail. With a little grading, we create a rain garden that would support all of the bioretention needs of this building. We could create community gardens here, and anybody could have a garden. We could take that ugly fence down and create a ravine overlook. And we're talking about birds and butterflies and wonderful planting. This is a learning space as well as a playing space. And at the end of the day, we doubled the amount of parkland that we took to do the other things that we're doing. So I will end there and say this is our notion. Maybe that's an understatement. But this is our notion, and we'd love to hear what you think. Thank you.
All right, Tyler, could you hit the lights so we can all see each other? That'd be great. Amy Rosenbluth has volunteered to go around with his microphone, and we want to hear your questions. So please, I hope you have them. And if you could just address them to me, and then we'll go on to we'll put it to the panel here. So, and maybe we'll start off while Amy goes and gets to the first question. We'll have all these folks just introduce themselves one more time. Augie, are we up? Yep. Can you hear me now?
Okay, our first question.
I'm Paul. I'll answer planning questions.
Okay, this is literally the $1 million question. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Fine. Come on.
Okay, go ahead. Paying for it all. Is the idea that the city would pay for it? Is the idea that there'd be private funding, grants, the organizations? What do you think is going to happen?
Hi, I think I'll, with Ian's permission, I'll answer the question. My name's Lee Chilcote. I am neither a tenant nor a resident in the area. I do own some property here, but I have known Coventry Village since the 1950s, and I want to see this village grow and be enhanced. Your question goes to whether or not Cleveland Heights is going to provide financial support. We hope not. We hope to do all the funding of this development without asking Cleveland Heights for any direct financial support. That's what we hope to do. And there's no point in us, taxpayers in Cleveland Heights, asking the city to put its money into this. We need to raise this money. We need to find funding for this, and we're going to do it.
Great. Who's next?
Hi, everyone. Thank you. I can finally see the presentation at the City Hall. I was against the wall and I couldn't see any of it. I love it. I'm completely supportive of saving the space and keeping the building and the playground. I wonder about the housing, and I wonder if we're trying to make a pitched effort to save this place, should we try without any housing first? Is there a reason why the housing exists in this plan?
Paul, would you like to take a stab at that?
Well, I am as an architect and a developer, I am a builder of houses. I believe in revitalizing our established communities. That's part of community planning. And as I said before, when you remake a community, building new is a big spark. We have so little land to redevelop in Cleveland Heights. Most of my work has been in the city of Cleveland or other larger core cities than first-ring suburbs, although I've done a lot of work in first-ring suburbs. But like, for example, our neighbor Shaker Heights is predominantly built out like we are. And if you look at what they're building today, they're not just building that to raise taxes. They're building that to enhance their image and their identity. They're doing that because they're very wise about understanding how people assess the community they choose to live in or work in, bring their business in. We have to support this business district. And I think the void that exists along Euclid Heights in a commercial district is not enhancing the businesses, okay? It doesn't provide the edge, the physical edge, nor the activity. People walking on sidewalks and coming in and out of their homes and supporting the businesses. I lived in Little Italy with my wife for 17 years. And we lived in the 9 townhouses. And in the beginning, we had a community meeting much like this, except there we were with a bunch of crazy Guidos, and it wasn't as pleasant as this one is. I hope it stays pleasant. But I will tell you, they didn't want us to build those 9 townhouses on Edge Hill. I'm a Guido, by the way, so I can say that. But what I want to say is that it didn't take long for people to tell us, we are so glad you're a part of this community. We're so glad that you built these homes. They made a difference. They make this place fresher. The homes will also generate tax dollars. People will pay taxes, both income and property taxes. The homes will also generate revenue for the park and the community arts center building. Okay, this is one piece of land that is currently consolidated. A business plan is being formulated that would allow the lots to be subdivided, sold, and much of that revenue could come back to help fund what Lee was talking about, the greater mission. All of that to us is good.
Great. Hey, Frank, would you like to take a crack at that as well, since you're a neighbor in the community? Just about speak to the housing on the site.
Yeah, when I first learned of what you heard tonight about the concept of this housing, I thought this is much more than a bone to the city, because as Paul mentioned, the RFP from the city seems to call for housing. This is something that really does enhance the neighborhood. It makes this neighborhood a place that's going to appeal to, and I hate to use generalizations, but millennials. And I just, maybe it's coincidence, but just in the last couple of weeks I've come across about a half a dozen different articles talking about exactly this concept, that there are young families looking for particular types of houses, particular types of neighborhoods, and they're not finding them in downtowns of large cities, and they're not finding them in inner ring suburbs. And they probably won't find them in the exurbs either, but we have an opportunity to build a neighborhood for the future with this concept. And then, of course, in the short term, the more practical matter is it can become part of the business plan for making sure this building remains an art center and the playground remains a playground for as long as any of us will be.
Great.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, in case you wondered about the stranger who just got up and started talking. My name is Frank Lewis. I live directly across the street. And when I heard about all of this that was going on, I volunteered to help these very smart people. I mostly help Brady with the messaging, the social media, and the website, and things like that. And they let me keep coming back to meetings, so I do.
And you can go to our website, coventrypeacecampus.org, and there's some FAQs there, and this whole plan or idea, I should say, Paul, is there. Yes?
We live in an entrepreneurial environment. I'd like to talk about this building a little bit. Sorry.
You're okay.
There is no co-working space available in Cleveland Heights at all. And I'm hearing about a lot of things that work in this building from larger to accommodate larger arts communities. But I'm not hearing about a lot that really promote entrepreneurship. And I'm wondering if there's any way to create co-working space within this building for artists or anybody else in the community that's looking to collaborate and use community kitchens and everything else that Paul has discussed that this building will have.
Sure. Brady, why do you take that?
Come up and see ARTFUL. Have you been up there yet? Okay, come up and see us. Have Shannon take you on a tour. We are exactly what you're talking about. We are a collaborative art space that promotes entrepreneurship. We are helping our artists every day through networking, and we're building on it. We're brand new. We literally opened our doors in March of this year. So we're just getting our feet wet, but we're off to a really good start. We see ARTFUL expanding. In fact, Brian Anderson, who is one of the economic development director assistants at Cleveland Heights, came to visit us, a couple months ago. And we took him on a tour of ARTFUL, and we had sat down and had a conversation with him, and he turned to us and said, "You're not just artist studios, you're an arts business incubator." He called us a business incubator. If the city economic development director assistant is calling us an incubator, I trust him. But that is part of our plan. And, the people who go to Lake Erie Inc. and grow up and whatnot, we want to bring them back to our classes. We want to bring them back to the seminars we hold. We want to work together. That's part of the collaboration we can achieve by expanding our presence here. Not to mention the meeting room that we have envisioned that can serve as a great place for us to invite our community in for workshops and try and help assist people in launching new businesses. So come see ARTFUL. We'd love to show you around. We've got some cool spaces up there. We're almost full. We're about to rent our last studio. But we'll grow and we'll hopefully bring more artists. And we're not just fine arts. Where's Adam Bremer? There you are, Adam, right behind you. He does origami, but he specializes in 3D printing, and he sells his 3D pieces. Sometimes he helps people fit old knobs, and he's got a real small business launching out of his studio upstairs, and it's really exciting. So we'd love to give you a tour anytime.
Yes, this looks like a very good development to me. I'm fascinated by it. One thing that I think about the city and the city's focus on the pressure to get this developed right now, do all this right now. And then I think there is on Lee Road at Meadowbrook, this lot, the city built a parking lot for it, the whole parking garage with the bottom, that's already built. It's been built for years. The whole streetscape has been done. Millions of dollars have been spent on that to make that neighborhood. And then why is there no focus on, developing that area right there? Why isn't the pressure on that?
Lee, would you like to address that?
I might be one of a couple of people who will address this one, but the whole reason that I personally am involved in this Coventry site is because I've lived in this city for 45 years. I'm a former councilman. I've been on council for 4 years. I've been on the planning commission, board of zoning appeals. I 100% agree with you. We need to get this city moving in the right direction. The way we do it is we pick the best site first, and we may create momentum. I work every day with developers and owners of property who could come to this city and help develop places like Coventry or up at Cedar Lake. And they're not coming. And the reason they're not coming is they're not convinced that we are an opening, welcoming community who is ready to develop. This council is trying very hard, and they're beginning to get on the right track. We did very, very well up to the year about 2000 when Ed Kelly was mayor. And we did some very good, successful things. And it's fallen behind. Let's be frank about this. This is no criticism of the city or the city council or the city staff, but we, the community, this community needs to help the city move in the right direction. Most things happen because the community wants them to happen. We need to make this happen at Coventry. I believe that Coventry is the first and best site. That does not take away from Meadowbrook and Lee. If we can do Meadowbrook and Lee at the same time, I'm all for it.
What's up, Deanna?
Yeah, there are a number of sites throughout the city. We are primarily a built-up city, but there are a number of vacant areas. Not just Lee and Meadowbrook, but also along Mayfield Road, and along Noble Road, there are also vacant sites that we need to focus on. And what I will say there is that, to some extent, the city is at capacity with what it's able to do, and having a community development corporation partner can certainly help the city move along on some of those other projects, and that's what we're ready and willing to do.
Hi, Barbara Zabam. Couple of things. First, thank you
for the brainwork behind this presentation, to the tenants who have held this place together. When those doors were padlocked all those years ago, I could not see I couldn't see it. And you're it. This is exactly what this building should be. So, nobody could have envisioned it, and you made it happen. That's so great. I went to the Top of the Hill community meeting. 2 fractions. Don't change a thing. I like everything the way it is. And then there were folks at the other side. Knock it out of the park. Make investments, big ideas, and that's it. This is such a great, futuristic, but now kind of solution. And then my third thing is, how do I help? What do I do as a community member to get my city to support this idea? Because I don't hear them listening. A lot of platitudes, a lot of meetings. They want to hear from us, but I don't know what to do to make this move forward. This has to happen now. It can't wait. And density. I love that whole thing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Brady, would you like to take that question?
I want to say thank you for the incredible compliment. I know everyone, all the women who are here tonight speaking to you, what you just said means a lot, and it's actually got me a little choked up. We worked very hard on our organizations, and this team worked really hard on this. I mean, when I tell you this was a full-time job for everyone sitting here, I'm not kidding you. As far as what to do on your seats, and if you don't have a seat, you can pick some up at the table. We gave you little cards that have links to some of the stuff that you can do easily from home. You can log on to our website, you can sign our supporters list, add your name and add your comment to our supporters list. We will be providing that list to our city leaders and the school board and anyone who wants to see that list. We will be updating it periodically. Sign the petition to save the Peace Park. Same thing. If you haven't done that, go online. Sign that petition. Spread the word to your friends and neighbors. Not just Coventry residents can sign this stuff and get involved. It can go much beyond. It can go beyond the Cleveland Heights borders, quite frankly. People from Shaker Heights, people from University Heights. We all have a stake in this. Other things you can do, like we said, go onto our website, download the list of contact information for the city government. We're going to be adding the school board list to it in the days ahead. Email them, call them, set up an appointment, take them to coffee, start the dialogue one-on-one, and tell them we need a meeting. They're aware and they're open to it, but just remind them that we need that sooner than later, because you're right. We have a limited time. Our organizations, can you imagine the space that ARTFUL and Ensemble have to go searching for? It's not easy to find anywhere, let alone in such a great creative community. So we're on a limited amount of time. So we do need your help to voice, your opinions to your leaders and talk to us. And if we come up with new ideas, we will send out emails, we will post it on social media, and just spread the word. Get your friends and neighbors involved as well. And anyone else have anything to add?
Oh, yeah, right. Come on Tuesday, October 10th to the Bottle House Creative Placemaking Forum. You can talk about ideas for your neighborhoods, but we can also talk about this idea too.
Great, thank you. And also I would like to add, all of these wonderful nonprofits in this building, they all need volunteers too. So get involved in the organizations that are in this building. That's a wonderful way. That's a wonderful way to support.
Can I ask one question in closing? Back here.
Yeah.
Hi. Jeff Woodall, resident, fellow architect. Nice job on the plan. It's really a nice design, nice solution. My question is, there's a lot of we's being bandied about. We are going to do this, we are going to do that. Who's the we? What organization is spearheading this? And part two of this now two-part question is, what is the city's reaction to this? And is it a viable plan in the city's eyes?
Wow. I'm not sure how we can answer that second question directly, but I think maybe we can take at least a shot at the first part.
The we are the stakeholders, and let me describe those for you. The innermost circle of this stakeholders are the 7 or so of that you see us here, plus the tenants. And that group probably is 12 to 15 people. I won't go through it, met them all. Just beyond that are institutions around Cleveland Heights. The Cleveland Heights University Heights Library is very supportive. They don't have necessarily a commitment to this, but they're very supportive of our plan. We work very closely with them. We have presented to their board. We presented to their executive director. The Coventry Special Improvement District, made up of all the owners in the Coventry area. Tommy Fellow, Steve Presser, Michael Peterman, all the owners that you know are supportive of this concept. So they're part of this circle of support that we have. And frankly, the rest of the support is you. We have to get you behind this in terms of, which I suspect was your question, the formal organization. We, the stakeholders, plan to utilize an existing 501c3, which will become the owner of this property, and that ownership will then lease the property to the tenants, all of whom are nonprofit tenants. So this property will be an exempt property in terms of its ownership and taxability, just as it is today. That is the building. Okay, and we will own, develop, and operate the entire property. The idea is to create as much alignment between those who have a stake in the property with those that own the property. So if we make those completely aligned, then we should ensure the sustainability of the development for its future. And what we are the people. We're committed to make this part of the Coventry Village, to enhance Coventry Village, and to make this a centerpiece of Coventry Village, not taking away from what's there, but enhancing, thus allowing the businesses on Coventry Road to flourish and grow.
Answer your question, Craig?
Yes, thank you.
All the way in the back, yeah.
Hi, my name is Akshay Singh. I live down Euclid Heights. I really want to congratulate you folks on building the amount of consensus that's already been built around this plan and preserving this space as a priority and the green space as a priority. As a millennial, who we're kind of talking about today, I really would just want to say, like, if we're talking about needing more parking for facilities, that's one thing. If we're talking about millennials needing parking, one of the trends is also that we're folks who are going away from cars, and I think 1.2 parking spaces per unit is probably more generous than we should think about. If it's other facilities, fine, the library needs it, the space needs it. In terms of just if we're going ahead and thinking about generally the space, making sure that amenities outside of the park limits, right? Is this road going to remain at 35? Is there something we can get in the RFP? Because down Euclid Heights is a dangerous street at this point. It's a residential street. We're talking about putting more residences, and keeping it at 35 is untenable at this point. We're talking about parking connectivity. We have a giant lot just north of that cutoff, right? And like, how is it going to be able to serve this space in the library? How do we activate that? We have a parking lot right just south of Mark's that is just kind of been there for as long as I've ever known. And like, I just really think we have to be thinking about parking and development a little more intentionally. Because if we're going to put houses that cut off the park from Euclid Heights directly, I just think we have to be thinking really comprehensively about each square foot of this space and how we're going to utilize it. If it's going to be residences, are they going to be amenable to people in the park? Honestly, that's a big question. We saw Columbus turn their downtown green space into a private green space because of the way they developed residences around it. And that's, I think, unfathomable to a lot of people here. So I just, as we keep going down this path, to have really good, deeper conversations about how we're going to arrange this. And thanks again.
Yeah, I think we should go out of coffee because I have a lot of the same concerns. And I'll tell you what happened with me during this process was Paul. So I'm going to turn it over to him. Oh, thank you.
A lot of questions, a lot of really good questions. I'll try and respond to as many as I can remember. Comments. First of all, relative to the housing in the park, there is no way that I could propose this if I didn't believe that we could plan this in a way that those residents that are on very small lots, and this is urban housing, couldn't coexist and enhance the environment in the park. If we didn't have a terraced landscape, if we didn't have the ability to add the walking trail, which is a natural divider, it's not just there because it's a wonderful amenity, it is, but it's also there because it would sit on the crest of the hill, we cut the hill back, we drop the residences on Euclid Heights down, and that topography is already there. Nobody wants to level this site, get big bulldozers out here, big cats, and just level it all out. And then create an environment where the activity of the residents and the activity of the park users, which is anybody who wants to come here and use it, coexist wonderfully. We're talking about lighting, we're talking about wayfinding signage, we're talking about people supporting the park because they live there, which is a good thing. I mean, common space, when it's done properly, works well when people take ownership of it. And when you visit a place and when you occupy that place every day, you tend to take ownership of it, and somehow human beings tend to take better care of it. So I really believe that that is doable, and we wouldn't propose that it wasn't possible. Relative to the traffic, I absolutely agree with you. Euclid Heights should be 25 miles an hour. We need a major crosswalk, some point across the street that is signalized and or has the latest technology for pedestrian crosswalks to slow traffic down so we can get from the mid-block of Euclid Heights across to the now parking lot, which of course would help Ensemble on their busiest days. But I also envision an emerging master plan. I saw Steve over there. This district, I mean, I hope you say something tonight, because you know there are lifetime stakeholders all over this place, like Steve Presser, and I believe that they support redevelopment. And what we do here, I truly believe will kick off redevelopment on a lot of that underutilized property on the other side of the street, which actually could be higher density. It actually could be apartments. And so the whole district emerges and reaches the potential that it can. Parking. In terms of the millennial perspective on parking, even the old guys like me agree with that. This is a walking neighborhood, and we have transportation choices, and God knows, everybody I know is using Uber and Lyft. And the 1.25 cars is what I showed for the apartment users, for the high-density apartment users, not for these folks. For these folks, we're probably looking at 3/4 of a car space per unit. That's all I believe we're going to need.
Great, yes, over here.
Yeah, I had two items. One actually was a thought on the parking as well. If I understand, first I'll state what I think I heard you say, which is you've got a considerable net gain of parking spaces. Is that correct? And I assume that is it also a net gain when considering the additional parking needs that you've added with the housing? It's still a gain, right? And if I also understood you that the parking that was going to be existing for the housing, though, would not be adjacent to the housing, it would be like the stuff along the fence line would be down at the end. So, you know, just a thought that, yeah, I agree with what's being said about millennials. However, you also talked about, I think your phrase of terminology was old folks like you or like me, and that you're designing stuff that's one story that might appeal to those people. And, you know, as they buy a house and live in it for 4 or 5 years, their needs might dramatically change in their ability to park outside their door. The other thing is that garages hold other things than cars. They hold stuff that people need, like garbage cans and bicycles. And so just a thought. And lastly about parking is that I think it's important when you're doing something like this that it's developed as great real estate for a long time, and that you have the ability to accommodate what the trends not only are today, but what they are in the future. And the trend that's going now towards less parking may or may not be the case that in the future. We'll make sure you haven't shoehorn your way into not being able to accommodate that. Those are the thoughts I had about parking, but then I have a question for you. Would you talk about financing? Or I'm wondering, from a financial pro forma, have you done enough of it to understand a general budget estimate of what this costs, what the housing takes care of, and therefore the delta of how much has to be raised?
Maybe we can go to Lee to address that and double back on the parking.
With respect to financial aspects of this, what we have done is develop a pro forma operating budget for this. But to be direct with you and to be frank with you, when you have 2 months to consider a project of this magnitude, we have not undertaken to develop the capital budget for this project. We will need to do that, of course. We have a sense, an early sense of what we can do here, but understand that what we're going to do will be incremental. What we want to do is own and make some initial improvements and operate this building, and then over time do some of the larger things. We have not planned that out. We haven't had time to plan that out. We're reacting to a situation that we were faced with since May of 2017, and so we're coming forward. But I guarantee you, what you have here is the expertise in the people that are supportive of this. We have done a great deal of work in looking at sources that will support an arts campus. And it's incredible to me to realize how many places in the country are already focusing on this. And we are just, with this wonderful property, we're just beginning to focus on this. So I know that's not a complete answer for you, but that's where we are.
There's really two answers I can think of to your question about the housing and the parking related to the housing. The first one is if we remember, we're very early. This is conceptual, and this is a little different idea. Not that it hasn't been done before in other places. It hasn't been done in Cleveland Heights certainly, but I've done a lot of housing that 15 years ago people said nobody's going to buy that. They're buying it. There was no townhomes in Northeast Ohio, and I've built over 200 market rate for sale townhomes throughout the Northeast Ohio region. So this is only 22 homes, and I can't imagine that there aren't 22 buyers that would want this lifestyle. And if there aren't, we won't sell them. They won't sell, and if they're not pre-sold, they won't get built. So I can tell you that we feel pretty confident that we're on the right track. And it also works here because we really don't want curb cuts on Euclid Heights, and we don't want driveways on the property with rear parking. We don't want any of that. So if the housing doesn't work, it won't happen. But the second issue relative to parking and the garages, we have parking lots that are proximate to both clusters of housing, the Euclid Heights and the Washington. And if you see the dotted line behind that, that's actually indicating low-profile garages for the residents. And those garages would be designed to actually be a foil for the housing and also provide proximate covered parking where people could store things. We could put solar panels on the roofs that would be sloped to the south, and they become actually a wonderful visual amenity to break down the scale of the parking lots and unify and integrate the housing into the lot. People don't want a garage, they won't buy a garage, they'll just park in the lot. So we think we've provided enough variables that most people could live here comfortably and will desire this property.
Great, let's go. Steve.
Hi, Steve Presser. I just left the meeting at Coventry Village Special Improvement District where we allocate a couple $100,000 a year to beautify, to improve our neighborhood. And I can only speak for myself, but collectively I think we're all in agreement that this is an incredible opportunity for our community. I live 2 blocks from here. For someone to come from another country, another city, wherever, and to tell these folks that you have an art center within walking distance of a commercial district that includes a public library is incredible. It's just incredible. And I'm just overwhelmed. I mean, my head's spinning right now with what was created in a very short period of time. Let me just give you a couple examples. I'm a visual person. I'm also like a voyeur. When I see people who are new to the neighborhood, I can smell them. And I always go up and I always introduce myself. And there was a young couple, and I just knew they were artsy people, and they turned out to be filmmakers from New York City. And they're working on a documentary here in Cleveland, and they rented for 3 months in the Cedar Fairmount area. And I invited them to my house, and we hit it off. And I hadn't seen them for a while, and they came back, and I said, what's going on? They said, our project's working, this and that. And I said, when are you coming back? And they said, well, I think we're going to come back in the spring. We're thinking of moving here. These are Brooklyn people. These are Brooklyn people that are blown away by Cleveland Heights. And I got goosebumps. They love Coventry. Now, as millennials, the phrase, or as old farts, us, I also have friends who have had their hurrah in LA, their hurrah in New York and Boston, and they love Cleveland, and they want to move back. This housing is appropriate for both groups of people. It answers the questions that they want. They want those affordable, walkable neighborhoods. They ride bikes. They don't even want cars. They're going to take Uber or Lyft. They want to walk to a neighborhood like Coventry. So it was mentioned about Coventry. For years, they've been talking about, and it's public record, I don't know, it hasn't happened, but across the street where Huntington Bank is. That's a mobile home, folks. That's just been clad. That was an old gas station, right, Karen? It's an old gas station. Great photos that they have. So for years, it's been thought and proposed, but it takes money and time to take that, the building next, which is the dry cleaner, the parking lot next to that, and this is all behind where, then attached to where the Marks parking lot is, and create a development. Now, the word gentrification for me is almost like the Antichrist. I just don't like it. But if it's done in tasteful form, it will help and enrich the neighborhood. That will never happen unless something happens first. And this is a project that will bring development. Whatever it's going to be across the street can happen. But then, for years, it's been talked about North Coventry, which is north of Mayfield. Well, this week they just announced, and it made all the news, that they're going to have a circulator bus come from Case Western, which is wonderful. We have people here, and I see people here who work at Case, and you don't need a car anymore. You can ride a bike, you can take Uber, take Lyft, you can take the circulator. Well, you can live up here now and go to work. And these are positive things. But going back to this project, this is incredible. Look around you. I mean, these are artists. We have musicians from the Cleveland Orchestra here. You look at the pinpoint map of Cleveland, Ohio, or actually, let's just take the gigantic region. You know how many pinpoints are in Cleveland Heights that represent professional artists? We have the largest density. Second place, a far second place, is Lakewood, which is booming, by the way. Lots of people are moving to Lakewood. So why can't we create something in our backyard, which is already a diamond in the rough? The ravine is unbelievable. Take away the fence, as you said. Make a walking track for people like me who need to fit back into their size large shirts instead of extra large shirts that are presently wearing. And all my shirts are now not tucked in, they're out. So I can walk around here. Yeah. We'll have a support group afterwards. Bald-headed, untucked shirt people.
Thanks, Steve.
This city obviously is in a tough position because it's all about finances, so we know that. Here is a proposal to bring 21 houses, residential taxes, Also, people, salaries and wage taxes. This is an incredible opportunity, and I see city officials here. I'm just so glad that they've opened their ears and their eyes, and they allowed us to have a forum. Folks, this isn't our backyard. Disney creates sets like this. We can create the real thing here. And yes, as a merchant, and we're hurting on Coventry, I mean, it's reality. You have Ohio City, you have Tremont, you have all these neighborhoods. This is a gem that will bring more traffic and energy to our neighborhood. And why can't, as individuals who live and shop and have businesses here, why can't we have our cake and eat it too?
All right, too. There's a question on that. Do you have a question? Here, we go back here a little bit.
Okay, I'll try to make this quick. First of all, yeah, as someone from the Bronx, the only reason I stayed in Cleveland Heights was because of Coventry. So it would be nice to see it continue just before the millennial for the Gen X's. But my question is, I know that you made a presentation to the city, this presentation. Speak to me in terms of what were the concrete next steps. I mean, we've asked how we can get engaged, and we can email to our heart's content. But specifically, what did you leave that meeting knowing that you had to do, and in what time frame did you need to do it? And did you get any indication or specific time frames from the city staff or council as to when they would next meet with you?
Great question. I'm going to turn this over to Lee.
Nice set of easy questions. The next day following our meeting with the city, we requested that we meet with the city, and they haven't had an opportunity to set a date as yet. But we plan to move ahead on a couple of different things. Number one, obviously we're going to be moving ahead as quickly as we can on developing funding sources and financial support for this project. Number two, we're going to be meeting with the city, and recently the school board has asked us to meet with them. They own the property, so surely we should meet with them. We want the widest, our point here is we want the widest audience and the best understanding we can achieve. They have not responded, the city has not responded to us, and I think in fairness, while it's been since September 11th, it's a relatively short period of time. But we plan to move ahead, we plan to succeed in developing and operating this property, and we support very much.
Thanks. Let's go down here, I think, second row, right here. Maybe right here with your question. And then we'll go back to.
So real quick, I just wanted to say I'm new to the neighborhood. I've only been here less than a year. I'm from that Perry Township area. But originally, I was born and raised in Mayfield Heights, so I'm very familiar with the area. I moved here because of the culture and the history and the old homes and the century homes. And so one of the concerns that I have in building these new contemporary looking homes is it's taking away from what Cleveland Heights has always been to me and to a lot of people. So I guess the question I have is are the homes part of this plan to appease the city a little bit because they're the ones that wanted to come in and tear down and build homes, or is it a part of a revenue generation to help build up this area? Or, I mean, so that's just my concern as a new resident, that I loved coming into this old culture with people that have lived here for 50 years or 75 years or living in their parents' home, and I'm redoing my century home to keep it a century home. Is that building this stuff for millennials? No offense, millennials, but it's a new generation. I get it. We want to incorporate it, but I just want to be careful how we do it.
Sure. I will just say I live in Hyde Park with my wife. I still got paint on my hands. I'm painting our house to 100 years old this year. So I'm with you. I hear you.
I mean, I appreciate what you're saying. I apologize for my comment about Perry Township. I've never been there, and I honestly don't ever intend to go there. But that said, I almost said Streetsboro, just so you know. Okay, so, this is early in the game. This is an exploration. It's a set of ideas. It came out of a collaboration with as much community support as we could get. until today, out of respect to the city, because frankly, the city was the first entity to see any of this. And you're the second. This is the second presentation. First to our municipal leaders, and next to the community. And we wanted sincerely to know what you think. We don't have to build a house, but we believe in it on a number of levels, some of which I've talked about as an urban designer and as somebody that believes in creative placemaking, in mixing old and new together. I have a personal track record in working in old neighborhoods and historic preservation. I don't work in non-established communities, so I'm always working with old things. And really, the trends have been, especially from the National Park Service, and we don't know what the architecture is going to look like yet. We don't know yet. They're contemporary because they're new. What they look like, we don't know yet. Might they be little Victorian dollhouses? Personally, I hope not. What I'd like to see is something that blends beautifully, transitionally into the wonderful, iconic styles that were generated at the time these neighborhoods were built, but are of this generation, because that's who we are. We have to leave our mark, and we have to do it meaningfully, and we have to do it purposefully, and we have to have the best people involved, because great designers do great design, and we can't settle for less than that. I will just tell you, I'm an architect, so I'm going to expound, but I was at the top of the O meeting, and I said to the architects at the table that were sitting there, if anybody was there, we don't know you. You're coming to our community to design for, I think, Minneapolis. Well, that's great, but who are you? Are you equipped to design in Cleveland Heights and our great Cedar Fairmount district? Well, that carries over here as well. And we will ensure you that whatever we plan and design and develop will be totally transparent and exposed to the public. Relative to just the idea of what's the rationale for the housing, there's a lot of reasons. Yes, it's going to generate money for the city, it's going to generate money for the P.E.A.C.E. campus, and those are good things. Those are really good things. And it can be done in a balanced way, as I tried to illustrate. So it's going to take time for this to settle in for all of us, and this is the first step.
Great. Over here. Oh, more hands. Look at this. Here we go. It's starting to heat up. All right, all the way in the back.
My name's Mike Gainier, and I just want to say a couple of things. First of all,
I like you have your shirt on tucked too.
Thank you. We have the same issue. I think this is really, really a terrific design, and I want to compliment all of the stakeholders for what the terrific job you did in a very short period of time to come up with a design that I think really addresses so many of the issues that this property has had for a long time, and the opportunity that's been here for a really significant, smart reinvestment in this property. I have two simple questions. The first one, and I've heard this a lot the last couple of years, that this building was falling apart, and that there was $1 million worth of repairs that needed to be done, and it only made sense to take it down and redevelop it. That's my first question. My second question is who's taking the deposit checks for these houses? I got one in my pocket.
Yeah. All right. Well, you sound awesome.
Love that. Thank you. The building's not falling down, obviously.
It doesn't look like
it. It is so well built. This vintage of buildings, so we have 4 of these, by the way. I don't know how many are staying open. I heard 1 or 2 more may close. And those, of course, will be redevelopment sites that we'll all have to deal with in the future. So, if we run from this one, you can't hide because it's going to come up again if indeed those are going to be closed down. These were not particularly good schools. And so when one considers the reinvestment from an educational standpoint as a school, it's probably a different frame of mind than I think at least I have to reinvesting in it as an art center, okay? I mean, these are structurally sound. Believe me. Look around you. It's concrete block walls. There's a little bit of drywall, but it's mostly concrete block, concrete foundations, a steel structure that you can see when you go up in ARTFUL. And if you look at the deck, it's called tectum. which is actually we architects call it shredded wheat. You should go look at it where you don't see the ceiling. You can see it over there. See, it's white painted between the steel purlins. You won't see a drop of water, soiled water, because the roof's not leaking. And Tectum, if it gets wet, it rots, it deteriorates. This building is in very sound condition, and all I can tell you is it would be a shame to tear it down and not reuse it. It's not the sustainable thing to do. I mean, it's about sustainability is about reinvesting in the resources we have and not wasting resource to try and do something that doesn't necessarily benefit us. Especially when you've got this group over here that are making magic.
Yeah, and what I would like to add, this building, I'm an operations manager by trade. You can walk into a lot of buildings, you can try to retrofit retail outlets for this specific group of people. But I can tell you, this building was built for people to be in it. And I think you can all feel that today, right? When you're in this building, it's for people to be in it. And it's for missions like these to be in it, and that's why it works so well. You know, I think from my standpoint, being in this building for almost 8 years, 7 years, you can really tell. I've heard a lot of people say it's a terrible building. It just wasn't my experience. So many wonderful things have happened in this building. You know, students come back and say, "Hey, that was my elementary school. Oh, you turned my kindergarten into a theater, right? Oh, we had a memorial service here for somebody. Oh, we had a wedding here." You know, this is a place where people are and have been and continue to be, and I think that's really important. And tearing that down, we tear down more than just a building. We tear down what we are as a community in a lot of ways, and the memories that are here. So that's important. Who's next? Okay, I'll go in the back.
Hi, my name is Angela. I'm from Streetsboro.
Strike two, boy. I'm going to let you answer this question, Paul. Here we go.
I love
I'm an ARTFUL artist, and I would like to move back to Cleveland, preferably Cleveland Heights, and I've been looking. A 40-minute drive is very hard for me, back and forth. Very interesting model. I like it. One of the reasons that I do want to move back to Cleveland Heights, of course, is for the culture. But the houses are a little bit old for my taste, and I would like to move into a contemporary type house. I just want to know, because in Cuyahoga Falls, they're thinking of a handmade arcade where they're going to have like little handmade stores for artists to have handmade art. So I was wondering, is there anywhere in this model for something like that, for the artists to have something like that, basically?
Sure. Brady, would you like to answer this question?
Hey, Andrew, where'd you go? Hi, Andrew. I'm so happy you could make it tonight. It was an effort for you. Thank you. Yeah, darling, we're going to build new stuff and we're going to make it happen. Paul alluded to the blowing out the front wall toward making a grand entranceway. And part of what's built into that plan, hopefully, I should say plan, vision, idea, is a space dedicated for the artists who work and create from this building. Spaces that you can take advantage of and we can promote you from. Absolutely. No, we're not, right. So, as ARTFUL, our focus is first and foremost you guys. But our intention is to keep networking with other artists and other businesses throughout Coventry, Lee Road, Shaker Heights. Absolutely. We want to continue to grow ARTFUL so that we are reaching beyond just you guys and working with other artists, so that those artists can be exposed to what you do and you can be exposed to what they do, and you guys can help keep a sustained market going for what you're working on.
My turn. A comment and a question. My comment is, and there's a backstory. 74, And I've lived in, I think, 9 different metropolises, if that's a word. And Cleveland has always been one of my favorites. So when Linda and I decided to move on for what we think is going to be our last move, we started at the heart of the city, then we went out to Tremont. They told us, well, that's up and coming. He says, look at me, I don't have that kind of time. So we moved out to Cleveland Heights. Wow, blown away. Similar to the community I came from. In fact, the house I bought is just below the map, right? Yeah, that's where I am. And if those had been available, I could use them. I could live in one of those. I do not need 3,100 square feet with a bedroom on the 3rd floor. Now the question. I was tickled when I heard you say that at the heart of this would be a 501c3. Who is the 501c3? First one.
What we intend to do here is to take the existing, what's called Coventry P.E.A.C.E, which is a 501c3. It is an entity that is responsible for the park today. It is a qualifying 501c3. I've checked it out. And expand its purpose and mission so that it serves the entire Coventry Village community, but still fulfills and still would be responsible for its original purpose, which is the park. It seems to fit perfectly. Now, has their board approved that? No, but their board is part of us, so I expect that will not be a problem.
Yeah, and from my experience, changing the charter of C3 isn't difficult, so that's a pretty easy thing.
One of the small things I do for a living, so we'll get it done.
Oh, great. And so my second piece of the question is, currently the Board of Education owns this building, and the city owns everything else around it?
No, let me be clear, and we probably should have said this as part of the presentation. The Board of Education owns this property. The Board of Education is obviously in the business of education. There's state law and state regulation that says when the Board of Education determines that it no longer needs property for educational purposes, it has to dispose of that property. It has to transfer the property. So that's the pressure on the school board. They've been very patient. They closed the school in 2004, and this is 2017. So they're receiving some pressure internally and externally to do something with this building. That's what triggered all of this, and I'm not critical of that at all. The school should be focused on education, and when it doesn't have property, it should offer it to the community. It chose to do that because it wanted to work with the city of Cleveland Heights by offering it for $1 to the city of Cleveland Heights. So right now, the school board owns the entire property, 5.86 acres. The idea of this is that the city of Cleveland Heights would acquire it for $1. We would like to acquire that property, and that's why we're working directly with the city, because we think we can make this property work on an immediate basis and on a long-term basis. Does that help answer your question?
It does. What influence does the city have over the Board of Education?
The city and the Board of Education, I should probably let one of the councilmen answer this question, but they work very closely together. In fact, they have quarterly joint meetings. And one of the ideas that this represents is that because Board of Educations are not schooled in development of property, that's not what they do. They educate children. That they're not best suited to offer this property for development or offer this property for sale. So they turn to the city and said, well, who is qualified to do economic development? The city is. So that's why they've entered into an understanding between them that the property will be passed to the city for a moment of time and hopefully be passed to us so we can fulfill the vision. Does that help?
It does a lot. Thank you.
Right over here, and then we'll go to a follow-up.
I'm Mark Chupp, and I live just around the corner, and my kids went to school here. And they're both creatives, and one lives in Ohio City, and one lives in Lakewood. And so I want to echo some of the things that Steve said, that I think we have a wonderful community. And I teach at P.E.A.C.E, I teach graduate students, and what I know is that my graduate students, while they may live on Euclid Heights Boulevard, it's just a place for them to stay. It never seems to be a destination for them. So they graduate and they move to Lakewood. And so there's a draw. It's attracting young people, it's creating a narrative. So this idea to reserve the playground may be a blessing in disguise, because I think those 100 units, we're not going to be of this kind of size that would attract millennials. I think the products we've built in the last 20 years in Cleveland Heights are great products, but they're not the kind that attract young people. And I think we have to change the narrative of our community to attract young adults who want to live here and stay here when they go to P.E.A.C.E. We're not getting the feeder effect. My daughter lives in Lakewood because she couldn't afford and couldn't find a place in Ohio City, couldn't find a place in Gordon Square, so she went to Lakewood, and a bunch of people are doing that. We're not getting that same kind of effect in the University Circle. We've got to create products like this that will attract young adults who want to live, recreate, socialize here. So I think having the complex of an art center with an open face to the community, a park, and small units that are modern and follow that, I think are really important. And I think it could be a model for other sites in Cleveland Heights. So I wouldn't say this was something you did because you couldn't find a space for a big unit. It's what we needed. So.
Ray or Frank, would you like to speak to that? We haven't heard from you, Ray. Come on, step up. Here we go. We at least have to know what you sound like.
But I think we really need to look to the future for Cleveland Heights, to make sure that our population turns over. We have much more younger people coming here, not all of boomers forever and ever. So we need to really be flexible in doing that. I think the big thing of the whole project here, I can see folks there, is that it's very much in flux. That we're still trying to feel our way what we want to do, how we want to do that. We want to work with all the parties involved, with the school board, with the city, the library, and all the same with our neighbors, fellow folks here, the residents here of Cleveland Heights. The future will be very bright. Let's light it up.
We have a follow-up down here from a previous question. Can we go there? Who's the mic that is flying around? Here, you know what? I'll walk over here. It's all right. Look at this. It's awesome. I feel like Donnie here. Here you go.
Just got answered about who actually owns the property and what the school board's role is and the city's role. And a park that's a public park that a city maybe owns and operates is not a regular thing. You're talking about stakeholders earlier. Would the city be a stakeholder, and should they be part of this as one of the many stakeholders?
Great question. Who would like to take that? Lee, how about you take that?
The city's here.
You guys like to speak to that?
What was the question?
Should the city be involved as a key stakeholder, especially considering that we're trying to maintain the park, and as a function of a city, the park?
I'm one member of council as the mayor, and so I can't tell you that we're prepared to become a stakeholder. Our conversation on this will be in the next week or so, and that at that point in time, we'll be ready to make a public statement. But you know that we represent all of you, and just as there are diverse questions and comments in this room, that's about how council is. And that's good, because that means that we evaluate everything that comes before us. What about this one?
So you'll hear diversity of opinion on this. I do think we are a stakeholder. I think everybody in this room is a stakeholder. Everything that Cheryl just said is correct. But we're all in this together. So regardless of the official denomination of the city, I think we're in this thing.
I want to just add this. What we believe is that we need deep collaboration with the city. Because in reality, the city's us and we're the city. We're all the same. And we need to deeply collaborate. Because we can create a model that's representative of regional excellence beyond anything anybody's seen. But it's only going to happen if we deeply collaborate. If we stay apart, if we become adversaries, if we don't work closely together, it won't happen. And the only way it's going to happen is a combination of the good people of Cleveland Heights and the good council people of our city.
Great. Okay, Evie. I'm sorry, we made you wait for so long.
I'm standing because I wanted you to see that my shirt is not tucked in.
All right.
I also want to say that I'm the shorter half of Eve and Stephen. My husband and I are urban farmers thanks to the Cuyahoga County Land Bank. We are musicians, and we also are one of about 350 people in Cleveland Heights who are Airbnb hosts. We have visitors who come to us from all over the world. And it's not only exciting and thrilling for us to host these people, but it's an honor and a privilege to direct them to this campus, to Coventry Road, to Lee Road, to share our city. There is so much that we're proud of. And all I want to say is that I am thrilled and proud to be in this room tonight with what you've created and what you shared, and with the people we're doing. What we're doing is we're doing it. We're doing it. There was a problem. It's been addressed. It's been looked at, and brilliant ideas are coming out, and it makes me feel extremely hopeful and very happy to be here tonight. That's all.
Thank you. And you were part of the original building of the playground, correct?
Absolutely, and I'm not going to sing to you tonight. I'm only going to sing your praises.
My name is Helen Hertz, and I have had 2 homes in the Coventry area, and I now live in Cedar Lee. I've been in the community over 40 years, and when I first came here, I always heard how Coventry was the place to be, and it certainly has made its mark over the years. Everyone knows Coventry, and I think this group, the Coventry community, has risen to the occasion to show that they are the creative entity and the artsy community that we all love and know. For this development, you have two key components that are already in place that can be capitalized on. I could not imagine a better arts building than this for a city that calls itself the home of the arts. You've got a playground that is already very creative, that needs, and I think I just saw an article, and I shared this with Paul, there is such a thing as a senior playground, and I think that we should add this. I think this could be a cutting edge development. It's 6 acres. And I know there's another 6 acre similar parcel over there called Top of the Hill that's going to take a long, long time. And Paul talks to us about what do these architects from Minneapolis know about us. I think that we have 2 components. If we could get this off the ground, we could spur what happens over at Top of the Hill and the Lee Meadowbrook site and the Mayfield corridor and the triangle up in Cleveland Heights. When we sell houses and we bring attention to our community, especially this Coventry community and this kind of a development, which already has a plan framed, we are going to bring people here, and they're not going to find what they want here, but they're going to want to live here because this is where it's happening. And so I think what we need to think about is that this has to get off the ground as fast as it can to be the leader that Coventry always has been, to spur the development that we need over at Severance, over at the Triangle area and Noble Road, and all the other areas that are in great need. Now, I just want to make one more comment because I have had a conversation a long time ago with Cheryl Stevens, who is now our mayor, and this is before she was our mayor, and she said, you know, we had this problem over in Coventry, and we were trying to figure out where we're going to put this new parking. And we went to Coventry neighbors, and they came up with a solution. And I think I'm sitting next to the person that came up with the idea to where to put that parking deck. And I remember Cheryl saying, the neighbors have some of the best ideas. So I think that hopefully the city will listen and take this project as fast as it can go and make it happen so that all the other things that come from an exciting event will spill over to the rest of the city.
Great. Okay, we're going to 3 more. How about Judy? We'll go with Judy.
I hope you're hearing from all of the questions and the comments how heartily we endorse this vision. It is amazing that you thought through so carefully how to preserve this building that means so much to us. And I speak from living right around the corner and having children go to this school. Yes, it didn't work as a school, but it is an amazing center. And it is in the center of a vital part of this Cleveland Heights. So I heartily endorse what you're doing. Think carefully, work quickly, and promptly to get this across. It's critical to get this going.
Great. Let's go over here. I know you've been trying to get in with the question.
Hi, I'm Natalie. I might be a little biased because I do special events for the Special Improvement District. I'm very involved in the community. I do work for Tom Fellow, I do work for Steve Presser, so I'm a little biased. But I wanted you to hear from another millennial. All my best friends, all my friends live in Lakewood and Ohio City. My boyfriend's here tonight. We live on Hampshire, and he's a local musician, and everyone lives in Lakewood. We're not going anywhere. After this presentation, I guarantee you, if I was ever going to live on the west side, it's not happening. This is amazing. I really support it, and I guess I'll start saving up for one of those. But I just wanted you to hear from someone my age. You know, gentrification is like exploding, and I was nervous. I was like, Cleveland Heights? No, you guys, so classic. I'm from Detroit, and like, I'm just so blown away by Cleveland Heights, and that's all. I'm not going anywhere.
Thanks. One more? You got one more question? Anybody? All right, way in the back. We got one more in the back, and then we'll wrap it up.
We'll even walk closer to the front. I've been involved with Heights Arts for a long time, with the Art Museum for a long time. And one of the secret weapons of this whole region is you get a lifestyle and access to culture that is terrific at a price that nowhere else in this country can really compete. And I think the idea that kind of what Mark was talking about, the permeable creative activity going on in this building, the whole purpose of Heights Arts at the beginning was to have arts be a matter-of-fact part of life, and not a special thing you had to do. And to me, if that can come to fruition through this project, it's part of a big continuum of making this a place to live. It's already a great place to live. So thanks for all the work.
And thanks everybody for coming out tonight. I would like to leave you with a couple of ideas. Somebody asked a question earlier, said, who's the we? I think after this meeting, we're all the we, right? So remember, call, show up, tell your friends, volunteer at the nonprofits, get involved, engage in your community, and we'll make this happen together. Thank you. Have a great week.
Yeah.